How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour being brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drink, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and out every day. 6 great flavors of slushies. Ready-to-drink cocktails, High Noon, Jack Daniel's, Crown Royal. Pickle Bar, led by the two personal favorites, the Barrels and the Dills. Indeed, second to none. And it is the 4th of July weekend. Stock up now, all at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. With that, we bring in the outstanding Neal Coolong with a lot of Steeler news. Neal, welcome. Great to have you with us.
As always, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
So they make the next big deal. Minka Fitzpatrick ends up returning to the Dolphins. The Steelers get Jalen Ramsey. They get Jonnu Smith. We'll start with the Jonnu Smith part of it. This will be his third stop with Arthur Smith. How important is that, the familiarity between the two?
I think that the big thing that you get with Smith, from what I've seen, is he's a very good short space route runner. He's a very reliable target. This is not your Travis Kelce, George Kittle kind of tight end, but he can work he can work the horizontal field. He can work the 7 to 10 range. And like we've discussed, I'm not sure Aaron Rodgers has a whole lot of 20-plus yard throws in that arm anyway. No. So with Smith, the big addition there, I think that I would expect to see from the Steelers is probably heightened success in the red zone. I think there are going to be one thing with Rodgers that I'll give him now. He throws a pretty good fade. He can buy himself enough time, and he's got good touch on deeper passes, call it 12 to 15, if he's out on the move, if he's throwing toward the sideline. Smith can run those kinds of routes, and if you get into tight space, kind of his typical what we saw in Miami last year was a lot of 7 to 10 outs. Rodgers can make those throws, provided he has the time, the protection to be able to do so. And Smith can run those routes well and come down with the ball pretty often. So I think Smith adds what should be an improved red zone capability to a team that's kind of struggled with that as of late. And usually you kind of blame the ground game, and that's certainly on the table as well. But I think between the 20s, the Steelers are going to be a better team this season than they have been, and perhaps instead, in other words, take out a few 25-yard field goals and add touchdowns instead. Where is their scoring average on the season? Does that get them a game, maybe two overall? Does that get them to a better spot in the playoff hunt in a very competitive AFC? I think all that can be true. I think that's what Arthur Smith would envision with a player that he's used in that capacity two other places prior to this one.
The one area, though, that would be a concern for Steelers, this is not America's greatest, most committed blocker that they're bringing in. So obviously it's something that Arthur Smith knows, but they'll have to work around it.
Yes, and I would say this. When people talk about 12 personnel, your two tight ends on the field,
yep.
For whatever reason, they ignore the versatility of that. Doesn't have to be the same two tight ends every time. They've
That's
got
right.
an emerging blocking tight end in Darnell Washington. Pat Frymuth is a good three-down tight end. There are different packages that they could run with combinations of tight ends on the field. I think that's probably what they're going to end up doing. Because you're right. I mean, you're not expecting Jonnu Smith to lead the edge on an outside zone play the way that the Steelers will probably deploy Freiermuth often this year, certainly Washington. But when he is on the field, when you have another receiver within that group, there are lots of different things that you can do. And I would say it's not just the package itself with a play call from the huddle. It's more letting a very intelligent, very experienced quarterback take a look at what a defense is doing, knowing their tendencies after having prepared all week for that opponent, and being able to move your players around to do whatever you want to do. I don't know if we've talked about this before. Now, I remember this play as a demonstration of why the New England Patriots had the dominance that they had in the last two decades. They came out in it was a 13 package. They had 3 tight ends on the field. Tom Brady kind of looked at what the Steelers were doing, made a call to each side of the line, and all of a sudden they're in a 5-wide package that the Steelers can't defend. And they picked up, I think, 35, 40 yards on the play because they had one of those 5'9" wide receivers that they had on James Harrison somehow in the slot. When you have that kind of versatility, your quarterback can mix and match wherever you need, wherever you want to put the advantage, you're able to do that. When you can play 3 tight ends with receiving options and a running back who theoretically is able to gain yards through a couple of different schemes that you're going to run, you have that versatility. That makes you a very hard team to defend, makes you a very hard team to prepare for. And it's easier on the quarterback because all they need to do is kind of take a look at what a defense is going to do in whatever situation, where their personnel is, make a couple calls, and you can flip around what you're doing. The Steelers are going to have the ability to do that with an improving offensive line with a lot more experience and a very intelligent, reasonably capable physical quarterback. I think they have the luxury now with a guy like Smith of being able to really tap into that versatility, and instead of the deep physical talent that they don't have at the wide receiver position, they can make up for that by kind of a chess piece type of player like Smith on the line, in the slot, wherever, and be able to kind of dictate what they're going to do based on what the defense is giving them.
Well, okay, so let's get to the Minkah Fitzpatrick part. I'll do this in 2 parts. When he was acquired, boy, did he play at a level that was tremendous. I felt in the last couple of years personally that level of performance has fallen off. What is your opinion on what they lose in Minkah Fitzpatrick?
I think with Minkah, the big thing was, I want to say that the manner in which he left Miami, and he was traded, of course, but there was friction there. This is, he second year in, the former, 12th, 13th overall pick, whatever it was, highly versatile athlete, a very strong defensive back prospect. That's the way he always was seen. Mike Tomlin loved him. You knew that. There was no way where the Steelers were in the draft that year they were going to get him. But Brian Flores, oddly enough, who would go on to become the Steelers linebackers coach and now the defensive coordinator for the Vikings, in his tenure as the head coach of the Dolphins, they struggled quite a bit initially with what they were trying to do. And the thing was, with Fitzpatrick, it kind of seemed like they were using him in 4 or 5 different roles. They almost wanted him to be more of a nickelback than probably what he's best to be, which is that deep center field type of player. When the Steelers acquired him, it was in the middle of the season. And at that point, really, not a whole lot that you could do as far as scheming him up. He has to get caught up with the defense as quickly as he can because they want him on the field every snap. So they basically said, deep center field is yours. We're going to keep you back there and just roam the field and make plays on the ball. And he did. He was an all-pro that season, largely because it became very difficult to throw deep on the Steelers without risk of Fitzpatrick making a play. And he did that, I think, at a very high level the first 2 years of his time in Pittsburgh. And a big part of that was teams were still throwing vertically. They threw outside the numbers quite a bit more. I think across the league, you saw teams hesitate in doing that more They wanted to open things up underneath a little bit more, and more teams were playing 2 deep, 3 deep safeties to take away those big plays. Minkah was, I think pretty commonly, he's been the deep center field position. He's been roaming, but recently teams haven't really been trying to throw over the top of the Steelers all that much, and they're doing stuff underneath. And with that, I got the sense, in watching him probably call it the last 30 games or so, there was a sense of frustration from Fitzpatrick. Largely, he wasn't making plays anymore. The ball was not coming in his direction. He started guessing a bit more, and he wasn't guessing correctly anymore. You know, as a deep safety, you have to have an instinct for the position, and Fitzpatrick showed Hall of Fame level instincts, Ed Reed-like instincts the first 2, 3, 4 years of his career. It went down quite a bit after that, and at the same time, I think that's in concert with a league that wasn't doing the types of things that you would expect it to do game to game. So his highest and best use, I think, was kind of marginalized a bit collectively. Offensive football just doesn't look the same way as it did 7 years ago. Minkah's kind of caught in the middle of that. He still wants to be able to be a playmaker. They moved him around a bit more last year. That didn't seem to really help anything. He misses tackles downhill, which is kind of a cardinal sin of a free. If you're going to play a traditional free safety role, you got to be able to come down and hit. He does. I don't think he's the best tackler in the NFL. And when he's not making plays, now you have a guy at $23 million can't do the thing that earned him that $23 million a year. I think that's kind of the decision that the Steelers came up with at the end, largely because as good as we have seen him, that is not the player we've seen the last 2 years. So really, it's okay. Well, he's costing a lot of money. I am just speculating here, just because where there's smoke, there's fire. That's a big contract to trade, and you need to acquire a big contract for that trade to happen. The Dolphins were going to struggle to find a trade partner for Jalen Ramsey, and the Steelers, who also wanted Jonnu Smith, could see there's an avenue there if they can kind of cancel out the contracts of Ramsey, who did not want to be in Miami, and fill in the blanks, Minkah Fitzpatrick in Pittsburgh. These contracts can even themselves out. Now we have a deal. Now we have something we can do. I think the main target here for the Steelers was to get Smith one way or another, and it kind of came up that this makes sense to get Ramsey. Why would that make sense? Probably because there's some type of issue internally between Minkah and the Steelers that just kind of became untenable. This is kind of an odd time of the year for at least a big name trade. But I think this trade really is about two teams that had players that a combination of didn't fit with where they wanted to go and didn't really particularly want to be there doing it anymore. So I think a lot of the Steelers got their money's worth out of Minkah Fitzpatrick. His career certainly isn't over, but it didn't seem like it was really working to the tune of $23 million anymore. And that kind of necessitated the move. If teams are not going to throw deep, Fitzpatrick's highest and best use is not as apparent. And they just gave Deshaun Elliott a 2-year extension. He can do those types of things. But if teams aren't going to throw deep and across the NFL, they're not doing it as much. If they're not going to do that, why are you paying $23 million to a guy to defend that? Take a player like Jalen Ramsey, who can play multiple underneath roles for you, create more versatility, still have something of a back-end safety if you want to drop into that. But there's just more value overall with what they have. And Minkah is just not the guy that he used to be. And there might have been some friction there.
All right, so now let's get to Jalen Ramsey. There are some who believe, talent-wise, he's a Hall of Fame guy. Sorry, I'm not there. To me, he is very, very good. How does he fit with the Steelers, especially with Porter and Slay already there?
This is the million-dollar question, and there's a couple different ways of looking at this, and I think a lot of different perspectives have come up, and we're not really going to know this, I think, until the regular season comes into play. But with Jalen Ramsey, let's go back in time on him. What was he, the second or third overall pick, something like that?
Yes.
Very, very high for a defensive back. I know that there was a guy who's going to play, some defensive back, probably a lot of defensive back, just taken 2 overall in the draft. But you don't see that position at number 2 overall in the NFL draft very often. It's a dude who's able to do that. Ramsey had more size, was just as fluid of an athlete as a guy half his size,
no doubt,
with high-level physical traits and length. Just a God-born defensive back. That's his makeup, and
no doubt,
very talented on top of that. The thing that you could see with a guy like Ramsey is he has the size. He can be a very big cornerback or a very big safety. My opinion, in today's NFL, what that really means is he can do both.
Right.
And I don't know. We're at the point where within the NFL, I've thought for a while now, we're stuck with conventional positions. And fantasy football kind of fuels this with fans, so they kind of expect everybody to have this, locked in stone designation of where they play on the field. I've argued with Steelers fans over this quite a bit, and certainly now in wake of all this. But Minkah Fitzpatrick, it might be the only guy, and Joey Porter, probably the only guys on the back 7 who are playing a traditional version of their position. Yeah. Every other guy that they use, where he lines up is not necessarily what he's doing on the play. And what I mean by that is these guys, call them positions, they have certain rules that they follow within a defense. If this, then this. There's a series of those things. That's the defense that they're playing. I don't think the Steelers have had anything even remotely close to a true strong safety since probably Lee Flowers, the guy to play it before Troy Polamalu. Troy Polamalu did not play a true strong safety position. I don't think there was a position for what Troy Polamalu played. But there have been a lot of examples of hybrid positions. We often talk about the safety/linebacker, which has been a defensive back, typically long in the tooth veterans that the Steelers have signed in, and it rankled the ire of fans. I'm thinking of Mark Barron, kind of an unsuccessful attempt at that a couple of years ago. Marcus Golden was a player they tried to do that with back in the day. I think Ramsey is going to be that because I think Ramsey is smart enough. I think he has the physical ability that really he can be an underneath inside defender. Whatever you want to call that, that's fine. But if you're laying out to me a man coverage scheme, which the Steelers ran for at least for Joey Porter almost exclusively last year. Others would drop into zone because there's a lot of different things that you can do. Slay, I think, could fit into that, certainly. Slay might be a better outside cornerback because not because he's necessarily supposed to play that, but I think Ramsey is better inside. He could be more of an asset to them defensively. And what I mean by that is if you have a slot guy, if you're taking man, you can do that. But you can also drop – his rules can be if this guy moves here, he can drop back and play a deep safety from that spot. I think that's what they're going to do. I think Ramsey's highest and best use is the fact that he can play 4 or 5 different things. And really the early indications that we have heard from reports is – they want Slay, Ramsey, and Porter on the field pretty much every snap. What does that tell you? This is a base nickel kind of defense.
That's right.
If you have to define it.
Exactly.
But what if Ramsey isn't your typical cornerback? Somebody's probably not going to fill that role, and you will need to have another safety in there. Now, they signed Juan Thornhill this offseason. If you're super excited about the addition of Juan Thornhill, I can't help you out much. But I think Jalen Ramsey probably gets the nod over Thornhill. Maybe you need to put another defensive back out there, but I really feel like the versatility that Ramsey gives them really means he could play any one of 3 spots. So you can mix and match with different defenders coming in to play in different spots. He's also really big. Keep that in mind. An excellent point that I saw somebody make. This team hasn't blitzed from the slot corner position since Mike Hilton left.
No,
Jalen Ramsey's 3 times the size of Mike Hilton, and he's twice the athlete. That's an asset. Get that guy, get his arms in the air to help eliminate short passes. That's a great asset. Ramsey gives them the ability to do a lot of things, but I don't think he's going to be used in a traditional way, the way everybody expects.
And you know what's interesting? They've made all these moves, and I still think they're in third place. All right, that's me. We'll find out. Neal, always a pleasure, my friend. Appreciate it. Have a great 4th. Enjoy it and be safe.
Absolutely. You guys as well. Thanks for having me.
The great Neal Coolong. And this half hour brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drink, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. And 6 great flavors of slushies, ready-to-drink cocktails, High Noon, Jack Daniels, Crown Royal, and the Pickle Bar, led by my personal favorites, the Barrels and the Dills, indeed second to none, here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time.
This episode is brought to you by Polestar. There's only one true way to experience the all-electric luxury SUV Polestar 3, and that's to take a test drive. It can go from 0 to 60 in as little as 4.8 seconds with the dynamic handling of a sports car. But to truly understand how it commands the road, you need to be behind the wheel. Up to 350 miles of range, the 3D surround sound system by Bowers & Wilkins. It's all something you have to experience to believe. So book your test drive for Polestar 3 today at Polestar.com.
Time or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Celebrate your freedom from high prices this long holiday weekend at Sunbury Motors with deals hotter than a firecracker. Hurry in to Sunbury Motors Ford and choose from 10 pre-owned Explorers priced as low as $17,997, or pick from 12 pre-owned F-150s, America's best-selling truck, starting at just $18,997. At Sunbury Motors Hyundai, save up to $2,300 on the versatile pre-owned Hyundai Santa Cruz and up to $2,000 on used Hyundai Santa Fe's that come with plenty of room for the whole family. And Sunbury Motors Kia, save up to $2,600 on the used, sleek, and comfortable Kia Sorentos, and up to $2,000 on a pre-owned, affordable, and smooth-riding Kia Telluride. And that's just a small example. Celebrate your freedom from high prices at Sunbury Motors Ford and Sunbury Motors Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and a Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip in Hummel's Wharf. SMC will be closed on Friday, July 4th to honor America and for their employees to enjoy the holiday.
An in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Show today brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, light, business, boat, motorcycle, RV. At the point, needed guidance to get me through the process with Medicare. And, hey, Steve Engel was there for me. Purdy Insurance, he made sure I was insured exactly where I needed to be and made sure he saved me money across the board. It's what Purdy Insurance does. Customer service means everything to them. At Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. All right.
Guess what?
What?
It's raining again.
Oh, no, it's raining here.
Oh, it just started here.
No. It's been raining here for the last 45 minutes at least, which we expected it. But that's why this morning's job was to power wash one side of the house. I didn't have to do the other side. I just had to do the one side. So I did that. And also the concrete walkways. That way, after a little discoloration from the trees and pollen and everything like that. Yeah.
Before I told you Coach Griffin was there, I was talking to him for a couple minutes because he was stuck in Crotzerville yesterday, which is a small town outside of Selinsgrove.
No, I know where it is.
Probably for 3.5 hours because of a rain delay in his son's 8-10 division All-Star game.
Brutal.
They were the 7:30 game. I think it was over at 9:45.
Oh, that's brutal.
Hey, at this point with the weather, I think they'd have to get these games in.
I understand that. Yeah.
I'm supposed to have a 5 and 7:30 doubleheader this evening, and that I think that at least one's going to be played, even if they sit there for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks here that it's going to stop raining around 4 o'clock. I mean, I've got a Spikes game tonight. Then after that, it looks like we are home free until Monday.
One can dream.
Which is incredible. It's incredible.
Especially the way it's been since April, man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind like an afternoon shower like this because, I mean, you don't want to go 2 straight weeks and all of a sudden the lawn starts to go to kaput. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd like some sweet corn later in the summer as well.
Yeah. And believe me, in making those trips up to Williamsport, I go by a lot of farms, and you can see now with the heat where it is and the rain they had before, it's starting to really shoot up a little bit.
Yep. It's that time of year.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. So I get this question from a friend of Jack's who would like to play golf at Sunny Hannah. And they were looking to do next week, and I don't think it's going to work. So he says, hey, how about next week about playing a round of golf? Ron Moeller texts back, I'm good for July 8th and the 10th. Brumbaugh, thanks for the response, Ron. That broadcast team up there must be studying their strategy. You know, Ron, we can't lose to those chumps, right? Jack Ham, give me a day or two. I've got NIL commitments. I then text in, I realize calling us chumps is a scheme to draw us out. I am personally constructing our broadcast booth this time, nail by nail. Despite that massive job, I might be able to work it out. But Jack can't do it next week, so it's not going to happen. But still, chumps, I tell you. Really? Oh, goodness gracious. Well, I'll tell you, I have been called worse by better.
I don't know. I feel like if you call Jack a chump in context of competition, his eyes narrow like they did in the Steel Curtain.
Well, it's funny because every time we do this, he and I play as a team. Okay, but it's best. It's not best ball. It's best hole. So in other words, if one of us happens to birdie the hole, we win the hole. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so forth. So that's how we play. And he'll say to me before we start the round, he'll look over and he says, Steve, we can't lose to these guys. Yeah, I got it. Believe me. And then if he's not playing well, he's like, oh, I can't believe it. It's like, it's all right. Okay. Like, because normally he plays really, really well. And I'll give you an example of one. We were playing, oh, God, hole were we playing? I think we were playing the 5th hole at Chartiers. This is 3-4 years ago. And I think it's the only time all day he hit a bad drive. And then the second shot was like, whatever. And then the third, who knows? So he walks up to me when it's done, and he says, oh, God, partner, I'm so sorry. He says, don't worry about it. I said, well, don't worry. I said, Jack, we won the hole. I parred it. He went, what? He says, yeah, we won the hole. I parred it. It doesn't matter. He says, oh. I said, there are 2 of us here. It's like, you're right. So he's a competitor. Still has that in him. Walter Camp preseason All-American team, Zane Durant, Nicholas Singleton, and Venga Ioane, all first-team accolades by Walter Camp preseason. Now, you know how I feel about the preseason stuff. I mean, the recognition is nice, but now you got to play the season and make it pay off. So.
Did you see the Big 12 decided not to do a preseason poll this year?
I did, and I saw somebody rip them for doing it. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. I don't know.
I assume somebody was upset that they can't write later in November that somebody was picked 12th in the preseason and ended up finishing second or something.
I mean, I don't mind if they do, like, in something like that, a top five. Who's your top five? But don't. I mean, so do this. Just keep it in the Big 12 for a moment, okay? I don't mind that they do the poll. But don't just go through five. Okay, you don't need to sit there and do all of them because now you get somebody finishing 16th. I believe if I recall correctly, wasn't Arizona State selected 15th last year?
Something like that. I think it worked out that the top 4 teams in the preseason last year, only one was finished in the top 5 for them or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right. Yeah. And look, I'm not trying. That's one thing I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to disparage people who vote on these things. It's difficult. It's very difficult. It's the exact same point I made last summer. We know. Look, I know Penn State basketball finished 17th, and they were picked last year in the summer 17th. But it's still the same point regardless. Nobody really knows who, for the most part, what anybody has anymore. Because that's the way life is now with the portal. You do have guys coming back, no question. But how does anybody know how Bryce Underwood's going to play for Michigan? I don't know. He has a chance, I think, to be really good, but I don't know how well he's going to play. How about Julian Sayin for Ohio State? I mean, even last year, he didn't really see any meaningful action, and for all we know, he's absolutely terrific, or for all we know, he might struggle a little bit. I don't know. Right? You have so many transfers coming in, and not only just transfers coming in, but transfers going out. And basketball is the most difficult one because it's easier for me to speak to this probably than anybody else because as people know who have been faithful listeners of the show, I do a lot of my season work in May and June. All right? And I have to do some of it in July now because some teams don't release their basketball rosters until after July 1. And some are later than that. UCLA and Michigan State and Oregon really don't release it until September. But between football and basketball, I've gone through everybody. So I have a pretty good sense of who has what. And especially in basketball, I can't tell you how good anybody is. I can tell you how good Purdue is because they're mostly back intact. I can tell you how good Michigan State is. They're mostly back intact. Wisconsin, most part, back intact. Everybody else, you have new guys left and right. I mean, I'll give you one. USC, basketball. Okay, 2 guys returned. Everybody else is new. Iowa, okay? The Koch brothers both returned. That's it. Everybody else is gone. It's an entirely new Iowa team. 2 guys are back on Minnesota's team. Everybody else is a transfer or a freshman. How do I know how good they are? Okay? Every single player, every one of them on the Maryland team is brand new. Basketball, every player is new. I can't tell you how good they are. I have no idea. Now, some of those guys I've seen before, like Solomon Washington, who transferred in from Texas. He's got a couple of Texas A&M transfers in there that obviously I know about because I've done a couple of Texas A&M games over the last couple of years. But nobody knows who has what and how it fits. Indiana, the only two guys they have back on that roster from last year are the two walk-ons. Okay. If you were to ask me, okay, who's going to finish in what place in the Big Ten, do it 1 through 18, I couldn't do that. And I've actually studied it. Now, you have more returnees in football than you do in basketball. But it is, Todd, it's bizarre. It's the only way to put it. It's bizarre.
And then, one, you don't know who has who, and the other part of it is, I hope the coaches at least have some idea, but who knows how the personalities mesh at this point. You could have lesser recruits in a better mix, or better recruits in a lesser mix.
That's why the summer workout part is so important in that regard, because you're trying to at least come up with not just your way of doing things and imparting it to them, but also trying to somehow, some way, get some chemistry. But okay, the suit says, I know this was not your point whatsoever, but this is what I end up going through every season with high school football. I never know who's actually coming out to play until maybe August, and then it's a question of whether they stay with the team in September. That's hard. That's very difficult. It's happening on all levels now. It used to be that I'd go through the Big Ten tournament. I would get everybody's media guide, their postseason media guide. Everybody puts out a postseason media guide. They don't do that anymore. Everybody's going away from paper now, because paper's so evil. And then I'd start working through it, and what it would be like, okay, you knew that X, Y, and Z were graduating. You knew that they had no eligibility left. Okay? And they would recruit 3 players. Okay? And that was pretty much it. You could really, I could bang through a basketball chart like that. Now I have to start from scratch every time. And you're asking somebody to go 1 through 18 as to where they're going to finish in the Big Ten? Same thing with football. You're going to ask them to go 1 through 18 as to where they're going to finish in the Big Ten? You have no idea. None. And you don't know how it's going to mesh. How's Iowa going to be in football without Caleb Williams? They've got the quarterback from South Dakota State coming in. And I thought he was very good at South Dakota State, but is he very good at this level? I don't know. How am I supposed to know? All he'd be doing is guessing. And I thought at South Dakota State he was a very good player. But I don't know. Right? The guy who was the backup quarterback at SMU, Preston Stone, who started the season, then Kevin Jennings replaced him. He's now the starting quarterback at Northwestern. How's he going to do there? I don't know. There's a lot of I don't know. The difference is you and I will admit it. Everybody else has to pretend to give you an answer. We'll admit if hey, look, have I seen Stone on tape? Sure, I think Stone's very good. Right? Is he great? No, he's very good. Is the kid from South Dakota State very good at South Dakota State. He was. I can't tell you in a million years how he's going to play against FBS competition. I don't know.
He can just do what I've seen over the spring and just act like that's exactly how he's going to play in the Big Ten.
Well, I mean, I go in. I've got all his numbers as to what he's done. I know he's helped them. I think they did win a national title at one point. And, there's a lot of things I know about him. But does his arm translate to this? It very well may. And then his experience, he's got plenty of that. Does the speed of the game? How is he with the speed of the game compared to the speed of an FCS game? I mean, these are all like legitimate questions, and he may answer all of them glowingly, and Iowa may have its best offense in years. I don't know. I mean, that's always like, I'll give you one. Max Brosmer last year was the quarterback at Minnesota. He transferred from New Hampshire to Minnesota. All right. Well, guess what? You watch Max Brosmer play, and Max Brosmer made a nice transition to FBS. Was he one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten? No. But was he a good quarterback in the Big Ten? Yes. Okay. So, I mean, I give him credit because I knew nothing about Max Brosmer until I did research on him. I'd never seen him play a game. What do you think, New Hampshire's on here in the house all the time?
I was going to say, unless you're happen to be on an off Saturday or happen to be around at noon yet and catch that Villanova New Hampshire game on Comcast or something.
Yeah, exactly. Or you would see him say New Hampshire made the FCS playoffs. Yes. I'll watch the FCS playoffs. I like watching the FCS playoffs. That's why I've seen the South Dakota State kid play. The one's going to be the starter at Iowa. I've seen him play. Gradowski or something like that is what his name is. Yeah, I think he's very good. And I think Iowa went in an interesting but correct direction to get him. But, I mean, this is the way college sports is. Now, I'm talking about it from my point of view. This is why I keep going back to the fans and how important stability is to the fans, because if I'm working in this every day and I don't know, how's the fan supposed to know that's just trying to go to the game that week and go, okay, who are these people? How good are they? You just don't know.
And then there's always that sense at some point, even in October, you're watching a game and went, oh, he's there?
Right, exactly. You'll be watching a game going, oh, I didn't know he went there. How about that? That's terrific. Looks like he fits in. Sure. It is. It's different, man. And I've been asked, how difficult is it for you in this era? And I said, it's not at all. I said, I may have to put in a little more research work because of the transfers. But I only talk about who's out there. How they got there, I really don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not like you can do anything about it.
Right. That's exactly right. I mean, I just talk about who's out there. I don't think twice about how they got there. Not in the least. You know, the fact that they're out there, I talk about them. They're not out there, I don't talk about them. I have a simple way to go about it, but I'm a simple guy. Well, we know the suit's listening today. He's already registered his complaint about his lot in life. All right. Back with more in a moment.
Hi, Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.